everyone, good evening, and a very warm welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis. Today is first day of June, and this entire video series is brought to you by LawSikho. So, with this, let's enter the agenda for today. Now, for the editorial segment, we've taken up an article that was published in The Hindu, and the title of this article is A Parliamentary Democracy or an Executive Democracy. See, here essentially, in light of the recent inauguration of the Indian Parliament, the author is trying to advance a case for the proposition that in India there is an increasing subordination of the Parliament in our parliamentary democracy. And for a major chunk of this subordination and the dominance of the executive, the author is trying to say that this is not merely because of the actions of the callous politicians, but also because of the very constitutional design that we have in place. How is this constitutional design triggering this subordination? We're going to have a look at in this article. Secondly, we talk about the news update segment. And thirdly, we have a look at important updates in the world of law. So with this, let's dive into the TNA and we start off with this article, the title of which is A Parliamentary Democracy or an Executive Democracy. So this is going to be our order of understanding of it. First, we talk about the issue which is involved in this article. Then we have a look at what are some of the safeguards that are in place and that have been adopted by democracies across the world in order to counter the subordination of the parliament by the executive. And thirdly, we talk about how these factors they are being diluted in India. So let's start with the why of this article. See, last week a new parliament building, it was inaugurated, and it saw both the reactions. There was fanfare around it. However, there was also a lot of controversy surrounding it. The two grounds which were majorly triggering the controversy were the absence of the exclusion of the President of India, the former head of the executive from the inauguration, and the symbolism around Sengol. Now, as per the author, this entire debate that ensued this development, there is a core issue which is lying underneath it. This is that there is increasing subordination of the parliament in India's parliamentary democracy. Now let's understand some of the safeguards that the democracies across the world have adopted in order to counteract this domination of the executive. So first factor would be that in order for an executive to enact its agenda, there is a need for commanding a majority in the parliament. Now this opens up the space for intra-party dissent and also an important role for ruling party parliamentarians to exercise a check over the executive. Now, occasionally what happens is because of the space for the intra-party dissent, the ruling party backbenchers, they can even join forces with the opposition when they want to defeat unpopular bills. Second safeguard that the democracies across the world have adopted is that the opposition has a very important role to play in how the opposition is granted certain rights in the parliament, and they also have certain limited control over the parliamentary proceedings. And this is to hold the executive accountable very publicly. Third is that the interest of the parliament against the executive, it is often kept intact by a speaker, which is unlike in India, is independent, is impartial, does not owe any allegiance to any party. And the fourth safeguard is that there are bicameral parliaments across the world in some portions of it, and by bicameralism we mean there is a second upper house that acts as a revising chamber where the interest other than those of the brute majority they are being represented. Now, when these systems or safeguards are in place, then it ensures the fact that the parliament functions in accordance with the mandate that the parliament is being created for, which is that it acts as the body which is representative of the aspirations of the people. And it acts as a house where deliberations are taken place. Now, let's have a look at why the author says that these factors are diluted in India. So first, the possibility of intra-party dissent, it is not in India. Why? Because within the parliament, this has been stamped by the 10th schedule that we have in place, which is often known as the anti-defection law. And this anti-defection law, it was introduced in the year 1985. This 10th schedule, what it does is it essentially penalizes disobedience of the party whip with the disqualification from the house altogether. So if the party leadership, it has issued a certain directives that you have to vote in favor of certain bill, you have to conduct yourself in such and such manner, and if any parliamentarian does not do so, then it may lead to disqualification altogether. So that being one reason. Ironically, as recent events have more than amplified and demonstrated, the author states that the purpose for which the schedule was brought in, it is not being fulfilled here. Rather, it is acting as a tool for the party leadership to counteract the intra-party dissent. Now, the second factor that the author has highlighted is that right from its inception, the Indian Constitution did not carve out any specific space for political opposition in the House. So, there is no equivalent, let's say, of the Prime Minister's question, where the Prime Minister has to face direct questioning from the opposition, and we don't have such a mechanism. So, therefore, the executive is not being held accountable by the opposition, and the opposition does not have that strength and power. And third factor is that there is no independence of the speaker as such, because the speaker does owe some sort of allegiance to any political party and is not an independent entity. So as a result of it, being non the speakers being partial and being non-impartial, it leads to two disturbances. First is, it of course has an impact on the proceedings in the Lok Sabha. However, when the Rajya Sabha proceedings are also impacted, now the question is how. So see, often what happens is, if let's say there is a certain legislation which the ruling government wants to pass, and in the Rajya Sabha it can see that there is an eventuality of it not being passed. So what the speaker does is, the speaker can this often happens, the speaker classifies the legislation concerned as a money bill, as a result of which the Rajya Sabha's entire role, it is undercut. And we've seen this happening in the Aadhaar bill as well. Now, the author fourthly talks about the role of the upper house. See, the role of the upper house is undercut not only by the speaker's misclassification of the bills, but also by the constitutionally sanctioned ordinance making power. Ordinance essentially is nothing but more than an executive legislation, and essentially an ordinance is a tool which is devised for the purpose of addressing emergencies or exigencies. But as per the author, this, as has been seen recently, this has become a parallel for the very law making practice and exercise itself. So, therefore, when put all these factors together, the author is trying to say that what emerges is a picture where the only effective check upon the executive is one where the voters, they've thrown up a fractured mandate. So, no political party gets a clear majority, as a result of which there is a need for forming a coalition government. Now, what happens in a coalition government is, the government is formed by, let's say, clubbing together with a political party which may not be at peace with the government. So there is a greater representation in the party which is now the ruling party, because it is an amalgamation of two or more political parties. So that may be one of the checks against the dominating executive that's been functioning here in India. So this is what the entire summing up of the author is. Now with this we proceed to the next segment. And now we proceed to the national news category for today. The Asian Development Bank, it has recently rolled out its country partnership strategy for India for the year 2023 to 2027. This new strategy, it focuses on key areas for the purpose of accelerating the country's development and for promoting inclusive growth. The strategy for India, it is well aligned with India's national development priorities, which are to be achieved by the year 2047, which essentially is the year when we celebrate 100 years of our independence. Since this strategy, it aims to help India return to its development trajectory, it is going to support better healthcare, education, and social protection, while also ensuring improved urban livability, rural development, and gender empowerment. Moving on to an update in the field of science, Indian scientists have recently discovered new exoplanet with a mass 13 times that of Jupiter. So, a new Jupiter-sized exoplanet with the highest density known till date, and also mass which is 13 times that of Jupiter, it has recently been discovered by an international team of scientists, which essentially is led by Professor Abhijit Chakraborty at the exoplanet research group of the Physical Research Laboratory, which is based out of Ahmedabad. Moving on to an update in the field of sports now. India clinches title of CAVA Women's Volleyball Challenge Cup for the year 2023. India has won this title by defeating Kazakhstan in the final at the National Sports Council's covered hall in Kathmandu. Kazakhstan, it became the runner-up, while the third, fourth, and fifth position they were respectively secured by Nepal, Uzbekistan, and Sri Lanka. Northeast is to get its first Vande Bharat train. The train will connect Guwahati in Assam with New Jalpaiguri in West Bengal, and the journey is now going to take 5.5 hours. Earlier, this time was 6.5 hours, and the distance to be covered is nearly 400 kilometers. Moving on to an update coming from the state of Odisha. So the Chief Minister of the state, he has recently launched the Odisha for Artificial Intelligence and Artificial Intelligence for Youth initiative on Monday. This was done in the state capital. In the first phase, the scheme is going to be implemented in 3 cities, Bhubaneswar, Puri, and Cuttack. The Chief Minister, he has assured that the initiative will augment the digital literacy of the masses, and as a result, it is going to make them familiar with the next generation cutting edge technology. Moving on to an update in Kerala. So Kerala has launched project to make capital largest solar city in India. The Kerala government has launched a project for the purpose of turning every rooftop in Thiruvananthapuram into a solar producing station. A 3-day expo, it was inaugurated for this very purpose by the Kerala government-run agency, which is called the Agency for New and Renewable Energy Research and Technology, where the public can learn about and buy several solar energy systems to implement the central scheme that was launched by the Prime Minister of India under the Smart City project. Solar panel installation, it has already started in 600 government buildings with 150 such projects being commissioned. Next, we move on to an update from Goa. So the Goa Raj Bhavan, it launches first books under the governor's scheme. As part of a very new book sponsorship scheme, which is aimed at promoting young writers from the state, the Goa governor P.S. Sridharan Pillai, he has released the first round of books which were published under the Raj Bhavan's Nai Pehal program. In this unveiling of books, a set of 5 books were unveiled. The books that were so released, they were authored by these authors. As far as Konkani language is concerned, the book was authored by Sanjay Ramesh Salelkar. For Marathi, we have Pallavi Polekar as well as Advocate Manohar Adbaikar. And 2 books in the language of English, it was by Pachu Menon. The scheme was first announced by the governor of the state in February of this year with the objective of helping talented local writers to get their first book published, with the Raj Bhavan bearing all printing expenses. And with this, we proceed to the national news category the international news category for today. The new development bank, which is the lender created by the BRICS group of nations, it will widen its membership as it seeks to boost its capital and counter the influence of Western dominated multilateral banks. The bank's membership, it is now open to any country within the UN. Bangladesh and UAE became members in the year 2021, while Egypt joined this year in the month of February. Saudi Arabia is the latest to discuss joining the bank. This is a move that would give the lender more financial muscle. The bank was created in the year 2014 as a counterweight to the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. World No Tobacco Day, it was yesterday in fact, it was observed on 31st of May. It is organized by the World Health Organization for the purpose of promoting awareness about the detrimental consequences of tobacco consumption. The theme for this year is We Need Food and Not Tobacco. As far as its history is concerned, we go back to 1987 when the World Health Assembly it passed a resolution for the purpose of calling April 7 as the World No Smoking Day. A year later, another resolution was passed which called for celebration or observation of World No Tobacco Day every year on 31st of May. And with this, we've come to the last segment for today where we talk about important legal developments of the day. First and the only update that we have today is from the High Court of Karnataka. Rape on women's dead body, it will not attract provisions of Section 376 IPC. The High Court has ruled. The Karnataka High Court has recently held that sexual assault on the dead body of a woman, it will not attract the offence of rape, which is punishable under Section 376 of the IPC. Even though the court acquitted the accused of the charges of rape, his conviction for murder it was upheld and life imprisonment sentence it was confirmed. The name of this particular case is ABC because the appellant's name was hidden in the order versus the state of Karnataka. And this has brought us to the end of the TNA for today. In case you want to get access to the free study materials that LawSikho provides or the TNA slides that have been used in this video, I would highly encourage all of you to please feel free to join our Telegram channel. And for the very same purpose, you may scan the barcode here or you may click on the link which is provided in the description. These are the point of contacts in case you want to get in touch with LawSikho. Also, the quiz which is based on yesterday's TNA, it is made available for your kind consideration in the description of this video itself. Please go ahead and attempt the same. Thank you for being with us.